Good Wednesday morning, everybody. It is April 2nd, and I'm Chris Allen here at 270 weather. Weather for the 270 area code and beyond. All right, here we go. Here we go. You can see behind me there, all the networks are talking about this what's going to turn out to be an outbreak. If everything comes together as we're seeing right now, this will be an outbreak of very severe weather. In fact, the parameters have been increased from what we were even seeing last night when I did the 10 o'clock news at News 40. So, yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Let's get right to it. We'll start, as usual, with a view outside from the Plano cam, and we can see that, well, since last evening, clouds have been on the increase. And those clouds are coming in ahead of the system. But no bad weather this morning. If you've got last minute things to take care of, the weather is fine. We've got a breeze out there this morning. It's going to be a breezy day. It's going to be much warmer than yesterday because of the surge of moisture and warm front making its way across the area. We're going to see almost record breaking high temperatures today in the 80s by this afternoon before the storms get here. Uh, Yesterday, it was only 65 was our high temperature. In fact, here are the numbers from yesterday: 65, the high, just 1 degree below normal, which is 66. The low was 42, and no precipitation over the past 24 hours. All right, let's check radar. I want to show you that there's nothing going on. All those tan colored counties, which includes Bowling Green, Southern Kentucky, and all of the 270. That's a wind advisory, which goes into effect today, this afternoon specifically, and all the way through midnight because of winds that could gust of 40, maybe 50 miles per hour. And then when we get some of those thunderstorms, which are coming in this evening, some of the winds could be 60, 70, even up to 80 miles per hour. Now, that is going to do some damage. We had a few times Sunday night when we were looking at some and hearing reports of 70 mile per hour winds. Thankfully, it didn't do that much damage or knock out that much in the way of power, but we're going to have that again tonight, and it's going to be rough. It's going to be noisy. It's going to be bumpy. Just plan on it. This is coming. What you don't see there, because the wind advisory is the first thing to go into effect, is a flood watch, which covers the entire area. Again, all of the 270 area code. And that flood watch will start tonight and it goes all the way through Sunday. Think about that. Today is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Flood watch. And there will be warnings. In fact, there are already warnings, but there's going to be warnings everywhere. There's going to be water everywhere, and it's just going to be really, really nasty. Okay. Let's take a look at where things are developing right now and look at that. That is going to come through later this evening. It is going to slow down, and that's a problem. It is affecting, the timing of all of this. I'm still looking at sometime after 7, 8 or so, kind of like it was Sunday night. But as it continued, when the more this line moves east, it's going to slow down because the whole system is going to get hung up and then it's going to park itself right over our area and just continue to produce heavy rain day after day. Right now, it is producing very heavy rain. You see a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings. There's at least one tornado warning right there outside of, it looks like Tulsa, Oklahoma. Let's zoom in on that because I want to see. Sequoia, Oklahoma is where that is. There's Tulsa. So Joplin, all those areas right now, the yellow is a severe thunderstorm watch. Look for widespread tornado watches to go into effect this afternoon and this evening. And I would say that's going to include us, just like Sunday night. You can pretty much count on it. Uh, But here's the thing, we could have some cells that develop out ahead of that main line, and that would happen, that would happen, like 5 or 6 o'clock, maybe even earlier, before the line gets here. Those are the ones that could produce tornadoes. But then, even after that, the tornado threat's not going to be over. It's going to keep going as we get on into this evening. So we've got to pay attention to that. Right now, there are places where we're not seeing that much in the way of clouds. We're seeing the clouds here in Bowling Green, but some of you west and east are not seeing that many clouds. Now, we will see some sun today. And as the warmer air and the moist air starts to come in, it's going to help fuel those thunderstorms that are coming in later. So, yes, there will be sunshine today that is going to cause more instability. You can pretty much count on it. That's going to be something that is going to make this problematic as we go into this evening, because then those storms will have plenty of fuel to work with, lots of moisture and that warm air. Speaking of warm, let's take a look. Kentucky Mesonet Network here at 7:10 Central Time. We've got 40s, even a 30 far northeastern Kentucky up there near Ashland. This is Paintsville, seeing 38, almost 39 degrees. Then you start to see a lot of 40s, 50s, and 60s, and now even 70s. So you go from one end to the state to the other, 70s west, 40s east. It's a big temperature swing, and the warm air is starting to move in. We've got mainly mid and upper 60s here, and the winds are certainly starting to pick up from the south as expected at 10 to 15 miles per hour, and occasional gusts are 15 to 20 to 25. And those winds are really going to pick up through the day. In fact, already in western Kentucky, we're seeing some 30-mile per hour wind gust. So make sure that before you go to work today, before you leave and do anything else, that you secure things like your trash can or lawn furniture, trampoline, if you got one outside. Those kind of things are going to maybe fly later on. Here's a look at dew points, and 60-degree dew points is where we look at. Anything at 60 or higher is going to be a problem in this kind of situation. So already it's humid, 50 and 60-degree dew points are already showing up at both Warren County mesonet sites, and they're going to continue to rise. Look at this back into western Kentucky, and this is where the weather is going to be the worst. They're approaching mid 60-degree dew points. That's really high. So the moisture content is high. The instability as the sun hits that moist air is high. And that's where the worst of the weather is going to be taking place. It's going to be rough here, but little more a little more rough into western Kentucky. So, yeah, not good. Okay, I want to go to the latest from the National Weather Service. I'm going to show you the briefing that they put out just a little bit ago. You can see the timestamp up there, 5:37 a.m. Because there has been an upgrade in the risk of storms today. So, wind advisory, as I mentioned, south winds of 20 to 30, gusts of 45 to 50. But once you get into those thunderstorms this evening, there could be some higher gusts of 60, 70 plus miles per hour. So the wind is one of the ingredients that's needed to produce shear, which means as you go up in elevation, you go up in height, the winds change direction and causes that spin in the atmosphere. And it's going to be really, there's going to be a lot of that spin that goes on today and tonight with this system. All right. So we go from the wind advisory to the severe threat risk. And look at this. We've got all 5 levels of severe weather, the threat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the whole scale, every bit of it. And to see a level 5 high risk is rare. We hardly ever see a high risk, but it takes in Paducah. It's going to take in Cadiz. It's going to take in Dyersburg, Tennessee, Jackson, Memphis, over to Pine Bluff, Missouri, Cape Girardeau, up to Marion, Illinois. It's sort of a small area, but it's a high risk, and it's at the highest level. It's 5. That's where they are really sure that there will be not just tornadoes, but big tornadoes. Those are going to be, EF3, maybe EF4. That's the worst area right there. That kind of purple, pinkish purple looking color. We are mostly in a 3. We're right there. There's Bowling Green, mostly in a level 3, which we were Sunday night, enhanced risk. But notice west of Bowling Green, it's level 4. The level 4 has come closer to Bowling Green and really takes in the western section of the 270. So that level 4 is a moderate risk, which is also pretty rare. But places like Owensboro, Evansville, Madisonville, Russellville, Hopkinsville, Clarksville, Tennessee, you're under that level 4 moderate risk. Everybody else along and east of Interstate 65 is under the level 3 enhanced risk. And then as you go further east, level 2, level 1. But, you know, here's the thing that I always say: nature does not pay attention to straight lines. And when the lines are drawn here, it's just to give us a little guidance. But the weather can do what it's going to do. There's no way to say that we won't have a higher risk than 4 affect us here in Bowling Green or Southern Kentucky. I mean, a tornado is a tornado, whether it's a small one, a little spin up, or it's a big one. It's going to do something. It's going to do some damage. So we need to prepare for that. Okay. Again, all of the worst of this weather, and I'm going to show you timing. So Stand by. Some of you are asking about timing. I'm going to show you that in just a second. But first, damaging winds, tornadoes, hail. Look at the tornado threat. It has come up some. Confidence in tornadoes, medium to high. It's more than it was Sunday night. I'll tell you that. Um, it's just the way, it's just how this is set up. We're we're looking at a higher threat of tornadoes and maybe some bigger tornadoes than just little spin ups. We're talking about EF2 or higher possible tornadoes, especially back into that level 5 risk area. That's where there could be some big, long tracking tornadoes. Now, they, unfortunately, taking in Murray, Kentucky, Mayfield, those places that were hit December of 2021, yeah, they are under that same kind of setup. That's where the bigger tornadoes can take place. Here, yes, it's possible that we could have a few that are EF2 strength or higher. That's why we're under part of a level 3 and part of a level 4. Hail is a moderate threat. Um, if we get these little individual cells that pop up in the afternoon before the main line gets here, those could produce large hail. If we do like Sunday night and those never did come around, then we might be okay on hail production. Wind is the highest threat. Damaging straight line winds are very likely. Flooding, moderate to high. And then after tonight, flooding becomes the highest risk over everything else, which I will show you just shortly. Okay, here's the timing as put out by the National Weather Service. These times are in Eastern Daylight Time. So subtract an hour, unless you're over east of us, on what we call fast time. We call Eastern Time fast time, and Central Time is slow time. We just call it that instead of Central and Eastern. But Bowling Green, the main line, looks to come in after 10 p.m. west of Bowling Green and then rolling through to about midnight. That's almost exactly what happened Sunday night. But there could be storms that form way before that line, that main line comes through. If that happens, then it's going to be a much longer period of storminess instead of just a couple of hours or 2 or 3 hours. It could be closer to 4 or 5 hours worth of the worst of the weather. The confidence in the timing, as you see here, is medium. Um, this is, and they've mentioned it here. Eastward movement will slow considerably east of Interstate 65. So that's why the timing there shows east of Bowling Green, midnight to 4 a.m. And then east of there, Cumberland Plateau, parts of eastern Kentucky will be after 4 o'clock in the morning, Eastern time. So it's going to come in, it's going to be fairly moving pretty good, and then it's going to slow and slow and slow, and then it's just going to stop. That's the problem. It's going to stop right over southern Kentucky and much of the central part of Kentucky. And it's just going to sit there. Then, once we get done with the initial round of severe storms and tornadoes, the mode switches to flooding. And boy, the flooding that I'm going to show you is just pretty incredible what we're expecting. So, your timing, if you're in Bowling Green, I would say be watching after 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. for those little individual popcorn type cells to show up. If those show up, those could be tornado and large hail producers. If they don't show up, that means there's that cap on the atmosphere, that lid, like putting a lid over boiling water, that lid canopy of clouds, if we can keep them, the clouds with us today, would cut down on the instability, and those cells would never show up, supercells. But if the cap is broken or things get popping before the main line, then we're going to start our severe weather coverage earlier than expected. But the main line, like we saw Sunday night, big long line of storms, that's going to come in, uh, say after 8 to the west of Bowling Green, roll through about 10 o'clock tonight, and then roll out at around midnight. Okay. So there's your timing that you need to be watching, and that's pretty much everybody in the 270. Okay. Knowing these risk categories is important. We are under a part level 3, but that level 4, moderate risk, just west of us, means that there's widespread severe storms likely, long lived, widespread, and intense storms. Several severe storms are likely to be significant, including strong tornadoes, several reports of significant wind damage. We're talking about a swath of trees and power lines and things like that down, and also destructive hail 2 inches or greater, which is about golf ball size or bigger. Kind of like they had in Owensboro a couple of weeks ago with their severe weather that rolled through. Big hail is possible, especially if we get those little cells that pop up in the afternoon. Then look out. And then back there where there's a level 5, the highest risk on the categories of severe weather, we're talking about widespread severe storms outbreak. This is going to be an outbreak of long lived intense storms, numerous severe storms, significant strong tornadoes, some EF2 or higher. Widespread reports of significant wind damage and that large hail. So, just to give you an idea, it is, I've seen level 5 high risk locations bust. I've seen it bust. I don't think this one's going to bust. This one looks like it's 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 coming, it's going to happen. There's not going to be something that's steered a different direction. Um, the weather service is very sure about this one, about what it could do and how strong things could be. Tornado probability is 10%, or yeah, 10%, we'll say, for Bowling Green, less to the east, greater to the west. West of Bowling Green, 15% probability of tornadoes, 30% in that level 5 area. And you see everything is hatched with the little black marks, which is an indication of 10% chance of a significant tornado, EF2 or stronger. And these are the tornadoes, not like Sunday night when they just show up as a little kink in the line and they're short lived or very small tornadoes. These are the kind that can stay on the ground for miles and miles, and they're bigger, much bigger. Medium confidence in that. Here we go with the severe wind, damaging wind, and hail for Bowling Green. We're in that 30% chance. This is the highest risk that we're going to have in Bowling Green, higher than the tornado risk. Uh, it's 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 looking very certain that we're going to get damaging straight line winds. We had a little bit of that Sunday night, but I think the chance here tonight of seeing that is greater. Probably this is going to be what causes the most damage and the most problems for Bowling Green, Southern Kentucky, and the 270. Unless you live west, then there's that higher probability of tornadoes. Then severe hail, we're in that same 30% area, and the possibility of seeing, like I mentioned, hail 2 inches in diameter or bigger. We've got, especially if we get those thunderstorms that popped up in the afternoon before the main line gets here. And then look at this. There's more to come. We are under a level 2 slight risk for tomorrow, Thursday. And then here's more. A level 1 on Friday, level 2 back to the west, less of a threat on Friday. But then look at Saturday. Saturday, we're going to go right back into that level 2 risk area for Saturday. I mean, this is a day after day severe weather event. And then we look at the flooding potential. As the Weather Service has put here on their graphic, major flooding, especially Western Kentucky. Look at those numbers, 10 to 15 inches. That's over a foot of rain. Multiple rounds of very heavy rain starting tonight after the severe storms. And then it's just going to be day after day after day of heavy rain. When it rains, it's going to rain hard. And the ground is already well soaked. There's nowhere for the water to go. So it's just going to start piling up everywhere. We're going to have closed roads. We're going to have issues with things closing down because you can't get there, especially near a river or stream or creek. Even here in Southern Kentucky, 8 to 10 inches. It's been bumped up from what I showed you last night, even at 10 o'clock on the newscast. Um, this is serious. Could be historical in nature, and certainly it's life threatening. Um, then as the water piles up as we go, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, it's going to keep raining Saturday and even into part of Sunday. Some flooding may not be realized until next week because everything that falls has got to flow toward the Ohio River. And it's just going to make matters much worse. So widespread river flooding is going to be a problem. And as you can see, the confidence in these numbers and how much water there's going to be and floods in our area, high. It's in the high category. This we're more sure about than we are tornadoes. Tornadoes look very possible, but the flooding looks very likely. We're very confident that we're going to get around this much water over the next several days. You're going to think, when is it going to stop raining? Do I need to build an ark? I mean, it's going to be serious. There's no way of getting around that. Um, just be prepared. Here's a look at these are kind of like with the severe storms. The um the Weather Service also puts out these excessive rainfall outlooks. Here is today, Bowling Green and West is in the moderate risk for excessive rainfall. Tomorrow, we're in it again. And then there's even a high risk of excessive rainfall back into Western Kentucky as we go on into Friday and Saturday. Friday, it backs off just a bit. But Saturday, we're right in the thick of it again. more excessive rainfall. And even part of Sunday, it's still going to rain, but the excessive rainfall begins to taper off just a bit. Here is a look at those categories. Again, slight, moderate, high. We're mostly in the moderate category. Numerous flash floods are likely. That means a flash flood means a thunderstorm is producing high water in a very quick amount of time, very short amount of time. This is where you get your street flooding, roads closed. You start to get the river flooding that takes place. This is where you can get, if you're driving, you could get trapped in one of those low water fords. You know, there's a lot of those around here where you get near a creek or a stream or a river, and there's just that low bridge of concrete that's just high enough for you to cross the creek or river. But then when it rains a lot, it gets flooded. There's no way you can cross it. It's going to be like that, but worse. Um, this is going to be a significant, as it says here, flood event. It could be historic in nature. Think 1997 comes to mind. Um, there are other years when we've had just some serious, serious flooding, and this looks to rival that if everything comes together as we see it right now. So I'm telling you, you're gonna if you live someplace where it doesn't take much rain to flood your area, and I'm thinking right off the top of my head, places like Rochester, Woodbury, um, Trammell Creek, um, Dry Fork Creek. You get some of those streams like that. Green River, Barren River, Rough River. All of those are going to suffer from very high water, and not just along the streams, but flowing out from those streams, doing some flooding, like over in Morgantown. When you get over there and the Green River floods, there at Aberdeen, the bridge that goes across Morgantown to Aberdeen, that park that's down there, Morgantown Park, it's going to be flooded. Places like that where there's fields that have already been planted with maybe corn or whatever, all of those things, if you're near a river or stream, it's going to flood. It's going to flood. It just is. And this is all the sensors that are across the Ohio Valley region. And look, moderate flood, these are the forecast. Moderate flood to major flood categories. Almost every location. Cumberland River, Tennessee River, uh you get the, as I mentioned, Green River, Rough River, Barren River. They're all going to be seeing flood conditions. No way really to get around it. Never drive through flooded waters. We say this over and over, turn around, don't drown, but there are people that still do not pay attention to that, and they think they can drive through and then they get stuck or worse. Um, a foot of water can sweep your car off the road. In some cases, if the waters are flowing really fast, half of that, 6 inches, could move your vehicle, depending on what kind of vehicle you have. Most flood related deaths, fatalities occur in vehicles. That's where people um, are just not paying attention, thinking they can drive through it and everything's going to be okay. Then your car stalls out and you can't go anywhere and you're stuck. You're stranded. Uh, Nighttime tornadoes. Yeah, tonight we could have that. NOAA weather radio, have that. A cell phone turned on and charged up so you can get the alerts from the News 40 weather app. Flashlight, shoes, and just have a safe place. You've had time to prepare. The weather's been good. We've been talking about this for a while, so it's not like you don't know what's coming because it is coming. All right. So let me go back to um, the other maps and graphics here. That I just wanted to show you the weather service and what they put out this morning because that's important. So here comes our system as this draws on the fronts and precipitation. And we'll take a look at the next 7 days or so. Well, it's taking a while to load up. Hmm, like buffering. There it goes. I had to give it a kickstart. So here is our warm front coming in. You can see the tight lines, breezy today. Temperatures soaring once the front moves in into the 80s. The red zone today is back to the west to start. And already, I showed you the line of storms. It started already back there. Then we go to 1 o'clock this afternoon. We're still pretty quiet, but warm and breezy. Then here it comes. We start to get into the red zone. This is 7 o'clock tonight. This is where we could see individual pop up cells that could become supercells and produce tornadoes and large hail. But the main line will be back here to the west and moving into western Kentucky. Then by midnight, the main line will be through or just rolling through Bowling Green. Still red zone areas there for the threat of severe weather. The cold front will be back to the west, and then it's going to come right over southern Kentucky and it's going to stall. It's going to park right over the top of us, and then it's going to rain and rain and rain. This is tomorrow morning. There's the front with the low parked right over us. Heavy, heavy rain and even strong thunderstorms again on Thursday. As I showed you, there's still a severe weather threat along with the heavy rain. There's Friday. The front backs off a little bit. Not as much rain for southern Kentucky, but still, rain and thunderstorms. Here we go into Saturday, and look, a little more of a retreat as the front is stalled, yes, but there's waves of low pressure that are going to track along that front. And each one that passes just brings more rain. And then here we go into Sunday. The front finally makes its way eastward. It's not going to be like last Sunday when the front came through after the storms and then we were done. This front's going to come in and stay right over the top of us for several days and continue to bring us heavy rain, therefore the flood problems. Not until Monday do we see sunshine. We finally get some. Same for Tuesday of next week. So we're talking about a prolonged period of serious rainfall across the area. Um, One more graphic, the model viewer, model blender. As we look starting today, look at that 83, then 72 with the heavy rain tomorrow, back to 83 on Friday as we get a little more sun as the stalled front starts to retreat a little bit, but then it comes back on Saturday and we see a high near 80. All of these days, 4 days, and really 5 in a row, rain. Not until Sunday does the cold front come through and we drop into the 60s, where we're supposed to be, by the way, for high temperature. Then it turns much cooler for Monday and Tuesday, highs only in the 50s. Then next week, we go back into the 60s and even low 70s. Warms up a little bit, but nothing like this. 80-degree weather, that's way above normal. That's like 20 degrees above normal in some cases. So it's that's what's helping fuel these thunderstorms. Here's your forecast as I put up last night. If you were watching News 40 at 10 or went online to WNKY.com, 82 today. The greater risk of storms, bad storms, the rough weather comes this evening. Sometime after 4, we're going to start maybe seeing those little pop up cells. If we don't see those, then the main line of storms will come later, after 7, 8 o'clock or so through midnight. But heavy rain then, and the severe weather threat not as high, but every single day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, along with the heavy rain threat, highs will be in the mid to upper 70s. And then Sunday, finally, with some rain left over, we start to cool down into the 50s, and then cooler, seeing some sun Monday and Tuesday of next week. It's going to get chilly, um, but at least it'll be quiet weather and the severe weather will be gone. So I know there's a lot of folks in here today asking a lot of questions and things like that. Let me just say that everybody watching me right now is under the threats. There's no way it's going to miss your town or your county or your wherever. It's going to hit all the 270 and even beyond that. So even if you live in the 615 down into middle Tennessee, it's going to get you as well. So that's why sometimes I say it's the 270 weather, but also beyond that. But mainly for the 270, this is what you can expect. It is going to be a long night. It's going to be a rough night. I'm planning on several days of long shifts. I want to be like Danny Glover, who you know, in Lethal Weapon, saying, "I'm getting too old for this," but I'm not. I'm still trucking along. In one way, this kind of weather gets me not excited, but motivated to cover it as best as I can. But in other ways, because I'm older now, it's like, do I have to? Can I just stay home and just watch it like everybody else? Oh, God bless y'all because you keep me going and you cheer me on, and it really does help. It really does help me, and I appreciate that so much. You guys are sending up prayers. You're like, you're giving you can if you watch like Sunday night, you could tell probably toward the end I was running out of gas, so to speak. My voice was going, and I'm just like, oh, if I'm having a hard time standing up because I need something to prop me up just to keep me going. And I'm like, please, Lord, let this be over. And it was soon after that. But it's, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it happens. This has been one of those more active years, and every so often we get that. It's not going to be every year, but I can remember years exactly like this. Some people that don't know what they're talking about are acting like this has never happened before. Oh my goodness. Yes, it has. Many, many times historically, this has happened. So this is nothing new. It may be because your memory is newer than some of us that are older, but those of us that are older can remember times like this in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. There have been times exactly like this. This is nothing new. If anybody tells you otherwise, they're lying and they don't know the research and they don't know the history of weather in this area. I do. 4 decades plus of covering this stuff. So I've seen it before. We can do this. We'll be okay. Just, you know, take precautions, leave your weather radio on, download the News 40 weather app, have it on your phone, but have your phone charged up and ready to go. If you lose power, then you can keep watching us and know exactly what the weather's doing. And then just knowing where things are and what's happening makes you feel better. It does. It gives you a little bit, okay, now I see where things are going and what's going on. I feel better. It's not knowing what's going on that makes anxiety happen. So be prepared. All right. Thank you all. God bless you. We'll get through this together. I'll see you tonight at 5, 6, and 10 o'clock on News 40 WNKY because local matters. And maybe more than just that. We'll be streaming to our Facebook page, to WNKY.com, the web page. We'll also be streaming to social media and the app. And we could be going into the late night hours with this, depending on how slow it starts to begin to stall. So